In this video, we're going to talk about creating some segments around buyer personas. And here we've got Brian Massey, the conversion scientist, who has created 4 segments. So he's talking about 4 different segments, and he's using these segments. He's actually creating these based on per visit, so the average number of pages per visit, and also the average time on site. So again, this would be time on how much time they're actually spending in each individual session. So we're going to take a look at some of these. Let's go ahead and talk about the methodical Marys. So in this case, he's defining that as somebody who's been on the site for longer than average and they view more pages than average. And then we'll take a look at bouncy bobs, which are people who have visited fewer pages than average and spend less time than average. So let's take a look at how we can build those 2 segments. So we're going to come into here, and I'm in the source media report. So we'll go to acquisition, all about where our visitors are coming from, the all traffic report, and then into source medium. And I've pulled up a date range of about 3 months, give or take. And we're going to pull in our averages here. So we can see the pages per session is about 4.5, and our average session duration in this case about 2 minutes, let's say 43 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and create a couple of segments. So we're going to go to new segment here. We're going to go ahead and click down to where it says conditions here. And what we're looking for, if we scroll down, we can see pages per session and session duration, the average session duration. It's what our really primary things we're looking at. So we're going to type in session duration, and we're going to pull this up. Now, do I want the number of users or as a dimension, session duration, or a metric? In this case, I want a metric because I'm comparing, so it's blue. So session duration, and in this case is greater than, so we're going to say greater than or equal to, and let's say 2 minutes, 43 seconds. And then we're going to look for greater than or equal to, and in this case, it was 2 minutes, 43 seconds. And because we need integers or whole values in this case, we're going to say 3. So let's just say greater than 3 minutes. So the session duration greater than 3 minutes. And here we go. So this shows us the number of users that are so far meeting that mark in this particular segment. Now in his segment, Brian also mentioned not only is it longer than average, but there's also more pages than average. So we're going to scroll back down and we're going to look at our average. In this case, it was around 4.5. Let's call it 5 pages. So we're going to say not only do they have a session duration that's greater than 3, we also need to have the, let's say, unique page views. So we'll do unique page views per session where they had greater than or equal to, in this case, 5 unique page views. So now we've got our segment that's created that shows us a session duration, so how long they're actually spending in the session itself, greater than 3, and then they've seen a lot more pages than average, in this case 5. So we're going to save this and say this is our methodical Mary. And we'll save that segment. And then we'll go back and let's take a look at the bouncy bobs. So in this case, it's kind of the exact opposite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to do that in segmentation. So we're going to take methodical Mary, and we're actually going to copy out methodical Mary. And because it's the exact opposite, we can actually take this existing segment and we're just going to reverse it. So we're going to say now it's less than or equal to 3, and the unique page views per session is now less than or equal to 5. So now these are people who were on less than 3 session duration and whose unique page views per session were less than 5. So this is our bouncy bob. We'll go ahead and save that. Let's do one more just for kicks. So in this case, we've got, let's do Lost Lucy. So hit pages in a short period of time. So now this is somebody who hit a lot of pages in a very short period of time. So let's go ahead and we're going to copy bouncy bob here. Okay, so hit a lot of pages in a short period of time. So let's say pages per session, let's say session duration is maybe 5. So 5 minutes, and they saw more than 5 pages in a minute. Let's just see if we have any data that fits that. So this would show us people who were spent less than 5 minutes on the page, but then saw more than 5 minutes in that section. There's not a whole lot of users here. So let's say we dropped this down a little bit and they saw maybe 3 pages in 5 minutes within the 5-minute duration. So 111 users, we'll keep that. So these are the Lost Lucy. So we'll go ahead and save there. And that's it. From that perspective, now you've got at least 3 different segments. We can always create the other ones as well. It's just a combination of the numbers here. You can see most of them in this case seem to be, again, Methodical Mary, Bouncy Bob, some Lost Lucys, and then that 4th segment. In fact, let's create that just because I want to complete this. So Onehit wands, they visit a few pages but stay on for a long time. Let's see those. It's kind of the opposite of Lost Lucy, so it'll be fast for us to create this. So let's say it's a few pages. So they visit a few pages but stay on a long time. So in this case, greater than or equal to, let's say, 5 minutes. And then in this case, instead of a few pages, they saw less than or equal to 3 pages. So they stayed on a long time, longer than 5 minutes, and then saw a lot less pages. And there's a ton of those. So let's take a look. And this was Bouncy Bob. No, what was this? This was Onehit Wands. So we're going to switch over to Onehit Wand. Save that. And now we've got our 4 different segments. So Methodical Marys, our Onehit Wand. So we got not a whole lot of Lost Lucy's, which are great. There's a lot of people who spend a lot of time but aren't really seeing pages, so kind of low engagement. You can see Methodical Mary, definitely pages per session alone, if you see this, right? So lots of pages that Methodical Mary is seeing. And you've got pretty good bounce rates, lots of engagement that she's doing there. Bouncy Bob, definitely bouncing around. So bounce rates really, really high, pages per session really, really low, average session duration hardly any. So just not a whole lot. You can also see Methodical Marys kicking in the transactions. So this particular buyer persona is bringing in most of the revenue in this particular example. So high conversion rate, high transaction count, high revenue. Bouncy Bob occasionally runs into some revenue. And then Onehit Wand occasionally runs into some revenue, but not a whole lot from Lost Lucy. So we don't see a ton there. So this is just an example of how you can create segments for different buyer personas. Again, it doesn't have to be just on engagement. It can be like based on transactions. Maybe there's a buyer persona that buys certain high-end or high-ticket transactions, and you wanted to be able to separate them out and see their behaviors as compared to people who buy lower transactions. There's lots of different ways to use segments to do this, but this is a great example that Brian Massey shared. I would love to know how you're actually applying this information to improve your own marketing efforts. If you leave a quick comment below, let us know that. That would be great. Plus, if you like topics around Google Analytics, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the CXL channel. That way you're notified whenever a new video is available.